Hi, Andy Stanley here, and it's an election year, and I bet you knew that. And during every presidential election cycle, folks question whether or not our experiment with democracy is still working. And my answer to that question is it will continue to work as long as we, the people, work it. But everybody's got to do their part. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to define what I'm convinced our part looks like. And by our, I mean my part and your part. But first, a little U.S. history to set this up. After declaring independence from Britain, our founding fathers, as you know, went to work writing our Constitution. And creating this timeless document was not a casual endeavor, to say the least, due in part to the fact that our founding fathers actually disagreed with each other about so many things. In the end, pretty much everybody involved was unhappy about something, but happy enough about most of it to ratify it. Which reminds me of one of my favorite Winston Churchill quotes. He said, "Democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others that have been tried." Anyway, so during the ratification process, our wise founding fathers acknowledged there was more work to be done. They needed to add language that would limit specific government powers in order to protect specific personal freedoms. And the result, of course, was our Bill of Rights. Now, we take these rights for granted, but the notion of placing enforceable limits on a government to protect the rights of individual citizens was largely unprecedented in the world. It was truly revolutionary. In fact, for most of human history, human rights were neither promised nor protected. In fact, you know this, to this day, millions of people, women and children in particular, live without the basic rights guaranteed by our Bill of Rights. We're guaranteed the right to due process, a trial by a jury, a free press, but and this is where you come in, where we come in, actually. This is where we, the people, have some work to do if this experiment in freedom is going to continue to work. Government-enforced laws and rights are not enough. Something else is needed, something that can't be mandated, namely individual responsibility. And here's what I mean by that. When it comes to freedom, most of us think in terms of individual freedom, not collective freedom. But here's something we all know from personal experience, especially if you're a parent. Rights must be coupled with responsibility, or things go terribly wrong, right? At some point, an adult handed most of us a key to their car, right? And let us drive away alone for the first time. It was legal. We had a right. But our parents were banking on us being responsible. And if we weren't, well, I'm sure you were. Anyway, our founding fathers understood this relationship. They knew they couldn't enforce individual responsibility, that was up to the individual. In fact, John Adams, the second president of the United States, he put it this way. He said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people." And then listen to this. He says, "It is wholly inadequate to the governing of any other." Now, this is a remarkable statement coming from someone who actually helped craft the U.S. Constitution. He considered that masterpiece of democracy wholly inadequate for governing irresponsible people. Truth be told, our Bill of Rights guarantees us the right to be irresponsible. But if enough Americans exercise that right, again, things will go terribly wrong. In fact, my guess is that the issues that currently concern you the most about our nation are connected to the irresponsible behavior of some of its citizens, right? Laws are limited. Laws tell us how low we can go before we go to jail. Rights tell us what we can demand for ourselves. But there's something neither constitutional law nor the Bill of Rights can do. They can't inspire us to greatness. They don't create a love of virtue or an appreciation of doing the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. They don't require us to treat others the way we want to be treated. I mean, think about it. Traffic laws don't create courteous drivers, right? Assault and battery laws don't make someone kind or safe. Civil laws don't make citizens more civil. Free speech doesn't translate into kindness. And as you may know from personal experience, neighborhood association rules don't create good neighbors. Here's the thing. Laws put limits on the self-serving expressions of the rights guaranteed to us by the Bill of Rights. This is why you can't come into my house uninvited to exercise your free speech. So, to sum it up, the Bill of Rights reflects what we are entitled to. Federal, state, and local laws tell us what we're allowed to do. But that's not enough. those two alone actually foster division. To John Adams' point, a third component is necessary. To use one of his terms, the third component necessary is morality. While laws tell us what we must do, morality tells us what we ought to do. Rights divorced from personal responsibility eventually undermines personal freedom. Rights apart from responsibility actually breeds anarchy because eventually my expression of freedom is going to infringe on yours. So in short, liberty apart from responsibility eventually undermines somebody's liberty. And the solution is? Well, the solution is you. The solution is me. The solution is us. We, the people. In the first century, one of Jesus' most famous followers made the following statement. Now, his context was certainly different from ours, but the principle, well, it certainly applies. Here's what the Apostle Paul wrote. He wrote, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free." In other words, freedom was God's idea, but he knew what we know. We have a tendency to abuse our freedoms, right? So he issues this warning. He writes, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge yourselves." His point, don't confuse liberty with entitlement. Don't ask, how low can I go? What can I get by with? And then he adds this. He says, and this would change everything. In fact, this would change everything in our homes, our neighborhoods, and certainly in our nation. He writes, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge yourselves. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." His point, don't be selfish with your freedom. Be responsible with your freedom. We don't have to. You have a right not to. But the world changes if we all decide to put one another first, to honor one another, to love one another. And if we don't, if we choose to live, litigate, and demand our way like everybody else, Paul predicts our current national climate. This is amazing. Listen to what he writes. He says, if you bite and devour each other, in other words, if you demand your way at the expense of others, if you bite and devour each other, watch out, he says, or you will be destroyed by each other. Look around. Isn't that exactly what's happening? Our division in our nation is consuming us. We are devouring one another. We, the people, have become our own worst enemy. Our enemy is not the other party. Our enemy is division caused by laws and rights divorced from personal responsibility. Selfishness is dividing us. Selfishness always divides. Selflessness always unites. But you can't legislate selflessness. You can't legislate love. It's always a choice. So let's choose it. Let's obey the law. Let's exercise our rights, but let's not stop there. Let's be more than simply law-abiding, rights-demanding citizens. Let's be responsible citizens. Let's go beyond that. Let's embrace Paul's mandate to refuse to leverage our freedoms and rights to indulge ourselves at the expense of other people. Let's refuse to exercise our rights in ways that harm or infringe upon the rights of other people. Instead, let's look for opportunities to, in his words, serve one another humbly and love. Let's participate politically, but let's go the extra mile. Let's live responsibly. So, is our national experiment with democracy still working? It certainly can work if we, the people, will continue to work it. But everybody's got to do their part. And now, it's your move.